Look, I have seen a lot of stupid things in my 17 cycles as a galactic combat assessor. I have watched the Vrath bring their armored behemoths into the arena. I have seen the Kelix unleash swarms of bioengineered killers that could strip flesh from bone in seconds. I have even witnessed the infamous Durax deploy their quantum phase assassins, creatures that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously and strike from angles you did not even know existed. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day humanity decided to participate in the Apex trial. The Apex trial, for those fortunate enough to be unaware, is basically the galaxy's most brutal reality show. Each species brings their deadliest warrior, their ultimate predator, their absolute best instrument of destruction. Then we throw them all into a contained environment and see who walks out. It is violent. It is primal. It is extraordinarily popular across 14,000 worlds. When humanity's transport vessel landed on Station Pax 9, every species representative gathered to witness their champion. The humans had been talking big for months. Really big. They kept mentioning something called Earth, a Death World Classification 7.3. For context, anything above 4 is considered a suicide mission for most species. Commander Vrelt of the Karath Empire stood beside me, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation. Finally, he growled, mandibles clicking with excitement. Let us see what these mammals can produce. The airlock hissed open. I expected a giant. I expected weapons grafted to limbs. I expected scars, armor, maybe some horrifying mutation that would make children cry across the galaxy. Instead, a human female walked out wearing what I later learned was called a sweater. It had some kind of cartoon character on it. She was carrying a bag over one shoulder and held the hands of 2 smaller humans, juveniles by the look of them. I said, checking my datapad. Is there another transport? The human woman looked around, spotted our assessment committee, and walked over. The 2 small humans, one male and one female, stayed close to her legs. They looked curious, but not frightened. That should have been my first clue. Hi there, the woman said, her voice pleasant, but with an edge of exhaustion that I would come to recognize as extremely dangerous. I am Victoria Hayes. Are you the people running this thing? Vrelt stepped forward, confusion written across his facial plates. You are humanity's entry into the Apex trial. Apparently, Victoria replied, shifting the bag on her shoulder. Look, I did not volunteer for this. My government said I qualified under some program. They offered to pay off my student loans and set up college funds for Tommy and Sophie here. So here we are. She glanced down at the juveniles. Say hello to the nice aliens, kids. Hello, they chorused, completely unfazed by being surrounded by creatures from their nightmares. That I exchanged looks with Vrelt. He looked as baffled as I felt. There must be some mistake. I began carefully. The Apex trial is a combat assessment. To the death, usually. You have brought younglings. Yeah, about that. Victoria's expression shifted, and suddenly the exhaustion gained a sharper quality. I was told this was mandatory participation. I was also told that my kids come with me everywhere, or I don't go. So they made an exception. Something about family units being sacred in human culture. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Besides, they are on holiday break from school. Educational opportunity, right, kids? The small female, Sophie, nodded enthusiastically. Mom said we might see cool aliens and learn about different species. And afterward we get ice cream. Tommy added, clearly prioritizing correctly. That Vrelt's translator struggled with ice cream for a moment before giving up entirely. This is unacceptable, Vrelt boomed, drawing himself up to his full 3 meters of height. The Apex trial is sacred combat. It is not a field trip. Victoria's eyes went very still. Are you yelling near my children? I am expressing my legitimate concerns about this unprecedented breach of protocol, and the volume of my voice is perfectly reasonable for my. He did not get to finish that sentence. What happened next occurred so fast that our recording equipment barely caught it. Victoria moved. Not like a soldier. Not like a trained fighter. She moved like gravity had personally offended her, and she was filing a complaint directly with physics. One moment Vrelt was standing there, all 300 kilograms of armored arrogance. The next moment he was on the ground, Victoria's hand on his throat, her knee on his primary chest plate, and an expression on her face that made every predatory instinct in my body scream run. When you speak near my children, she said quietly, calmly, almost pleasantly. You use your inside voice. Do we understand each other? Vrelt, to his credit, managed a strangled wheeze of agreement. Victoria stood up, brushed off her sweater, and smiled at me like nothing had happened. So, when does this thing start? The kids need to be in bed by 8, Earth Standard Time. I am very strict about their sleep schedule. Tommy tugged on her sweater. Mom, can I bring Mr. Whiskers into the trial? No, honey, the stuffed cat stays in the ship. We talked about this. I stared at her. I stared at Vrelt, who was struggling to his feet and looking like he had just been hit by a cargo transport. I stared at my datapad, which was flashing warnings about unauthorized violence in neutral zones. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny, because sometimes when your entire understanding of the universe gets drop-kicked into a star, laughter is all you have left, though. We were so spectacularly unprepared for what was about to happen. The arena was configured for maximum lethality. Gravity fluctuations, atmospheric variations, terrain that shifted between frozen wasteland and volcanic hellscape every 6 minutes. We had spent months designing this particular nightmare specifically to challenge every species champion. .12 apex predators entered through separate gates. The Vrath brought Korgoth, a 4-meter-tall killing machine with claws that could slice through starship hull plating. The Kelix sent a swarm mother-designated Hiveborn 7, surrounded by 300 razor wasps. The Trell brought something that looked like a living shadow and probably gave philosophers existential crises. And then there was Victoria Hayes, holding Tommy's hand and carrying Sophie on her hip because, quote, her feet were tired. This is insane, I muttered to my co-assessor, a Felian named Crix. They are going to die in the first 30 seconds. Crix's tentacles writhed nervously. I have filed 17 formal protests. Command overruled every single one. Apparently, humanity's delegation was very insistent, and they invoked some treaty clause about cultural combat traditions that nobody has ever used before. The countdown began. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Victoria set Sophie down and knelt between both children. I activated the audio feed, morbidly curious about her final words to them. Okay, listen up, she said, her voice carrying that particular tone that every parent in the galaxy apparently shares, the one that means business time. We talked about stranger danger, right? Right? Both kids confirmed. And we talked about personal space. Yes, Mom. And we talked about what we do when something tries to hurt us or someone we love. Tommy grinned. We show them why you don't mess with humans. Exactly right, baby. Sophie, remember what I taught you. The small female nodded solemnly. The eyes are soft targets. So are the knee joints. And if something has a tail, it probably needs that tail for balance. Good girl. Now, I want you both to stay close to me. Use your observation skills like we practiced, and remember that Mom loves you very much. 3, 2, 1. The arena activated. Korgoth spotted them immediately and charged, because apparently 4 meters of muscle and rage does not do subtle. He crossed 50 meters in seconds, claws extended, roaring a challenge that made the observation windows vibrate. Victoria stood up slowly, positioned herself in front of the children, and sighed. Just sighed. Then she stepped forward to meet him. What happened next will be studied in military academies for generations. Victoria did not fight like a soldier. She did not fight like a martial artist. She fought like someone who had been dealing with tantrums, grocery shopping, parent-teacher conferences, and all the endless exhausting chaos of keeping 2 small humans alive for years. She fought like she was done with everyone's nonsense and nap time was in 20 minutes. Korgoth swung. Victoria ducked under it while simultaneously grabbing his arm, using his own momentum to flip him. 300 kilograms of apex predator when airborne. While he was still processing this impossible development, Victoria drove her elbow into a joint cluster that her database probably said was vulnerable. Korgoth howled. Tommy, Sophie, cover your ears, please, Victoria said calmly. They did. Then she did something to Korgoth's arm that made a sound like breaking timber, and the Vrath champion collapsed, whimpering. 1 down, Victoria announced. 11 to go. Kids, what do we say? Thank you for the learning experience. Sophie tried. Close enough. Hiveborn 7's wasps attacked next, swarming toward the humans in a buzzing cloud of death. This seemed like the end. Nothing survives the razor wasps. Their venom can drop a Krell warrior in seconds. Victoria pulled out a small aerosol canister from her bag. Is that insect repellent? Crix whispered beside me. It was absolutely insect repellent. Industrial strength, earth grade, probably poisonous to 70% of known life forms. She sprayed a perimeter around her children. The wasps hit the chemical barrier and just dropped. All 300 of them. The swarm mother, connected to them neurologically, shrieked and fled deeper into the arena. Mom came prepared, Tommy said proudly. Mom always comes prepared, Victoria agreed, pulling out snacks from the same bag. Granola bars, anyone? For the next 40 minutes, I watched a tired human mother systematically dismantle every apex predator in that arena. She used environmental hazards against them. She exploited their aggressive overconfidence. She employed tactics that ranged from brilliant to absolutely bonkers. The living shadow? Victoria turned on a flashlight. Apparently, Death World humans evolved fighting things in the dark and came prepared. The Kellic sent in their backup champion, a acidic slime creature. Victoria pulled out hand sanitizer. It was 99.9% effective. When the Trell's champion tried to use psychic intimidation, Victoria just laughed. Honey, I survived 18 hours of labor with twins. You think scary thoughts are going to faze me? The Trell champion actually retreated by the time the arena timer hit 1 hour. Victoria was sitting on a rock, Sophie was napping against her shoulder, and Tommy was collecting interesting rocks while 11 apex predators either lay unconscious or had fled to the far corners of the arena, refusing to engage. Vrelt stood beside me at the observation window, absolutely speechless. I believe, I said slowly, we need to recalibrate our entire understanding of threat assessment. The humans, Vrelt whispered, did not send their apex predator. No, they sent a parent protecting offspring. Yes, we did not even know those could be different things. I pulled up Victoria's file on my datapad. Previous occupation before the program, elementary school teacher. Special skills, conflict resolution, first aid, budget management, and apparently dismantling galactic apex predators with the same energy most people use to organize a birthday party. The arena ceased operation. Victoria stood, carefully cradled Sophie, took Tommy's hand, and walked toward the exit. As she passed the observation window, she looked directly at us and smiled. It was friendly, warm, absolutely terrifying. Same time next week, she called out. The kids really enjoyed this. Very educational. Sophie wrote 3 pages in her journal. Then she was gone, leaving 12 species of apex predators having existential crises and one very important question hanging in the void. If this is what humanity sends when they are being casual, what in the name of all stars happens when they actually try? I do not want to know. I really do not want to know, but something tells me we are all going to find out eventually. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.